You want to know about Mike and Lucy's relationship? It's complicated, but I'll try to keep it short. But the idea is that you have this guy and this girl, Mike and Lucy, right? And both are very close friends. But Lucy secretly has feelings for Mike. In order to protect herself from her own feelings, she acts all tough to him in an attempt to get his attention, while keeping her real feelings hidden away. However, Mike meets another girl named Sandy, who is kind and sweet and pretty enough to fall in love head over heels. It's not that Mike doesn't care about Lucy. He's just found a close connection with another girl because she isn't abrasive. But Sandy moves away, and now Mike is sad and feels alone because of it. So Lucy ends up falling back into that friend slot, and things go back to normal. But now Lucy is even more afraid because she realizes that she could lose Mike at any time. However, this doesn't sway her attitude, and she continues to berate and belittle Mike for years. All the while he continues to be kind and gentle with her. Oh, they're good friends, sure. And they do look out for each other, but Lucy actively is more aggressive towards him. Mike definitely might have feelings for her too, but it's tough to gauge how Lucy really feels because of how she acts. He vows to protect her because of it, but Lucy seems to always find a way to get under his skin because at this point she doesn't know any better. It all comes to a head when Mike, Lucy, and a few of their friends are in mortal danger from a couple of street thugs. Mike and Lucy step up to the plate to protect each other, both willing to give their lives for the other. In the fallout of this, Mike spills his guts to Lucy, thanking her for protecting him and promising to always do the same in return. Lucy, overwhelmed by the stressful situation of the previous night, and now having Mike all but confess his love for her, drops her guard fully and kisses him, but regains composure to tell him that it doesn't mean anything. Mike does genuinely start to catch feelings for Lucy, but she shuts him down hard. Soon, Sandy writes to Mike, and all of a sudden is part of his life again. Lucy wants to be happy, but deep down she is afraid. The memories of nearly losing Mike forever flood back, and she tries to laugh at it off and make jokes while doubling down on her tenderness. At this point, Mike is starting to have enough of her. He did everything for her, and she still is pushing him around. Not only that, but Sandy is back as an option, and he's beginning to think about pursuing a relationship with her again, despite the great distance between them. And so the friendship between Mike and Lucy goes down this spiral where Mike slowly starts to get more and more disillusioned with Lucy, eventually getting to the point where he believes she has absolutely no feelings for him at all and just uses him as a security blanket. And the closer him and Sandy get, the more he starts to resent Lucy, and then it's too late. Lucy finally admits her feelings to him, but by now Mike is just more or less disgusted with the idea. And besides, he is in a long-distance relationship with Sandy. And slowly, Mike now wants to distance himself from Lucy. He is under the impression that people only liked him because he was nice to her. Lucy then uses a good friend of hers, Paulo, someone who has openly talked about his feelings for her, as a rebound several times whenever things get really bad with Mike. Sandy catches wind of the abuse Mike gets from Lucy, and she starts to dislike her too, only adding fuel to the fire. Mike lashes out really hard at Lucy, but now he is becoming insecure in his own relationship because Sandy never talks to him. This exacerbates the problem. He starts lashing out at everyone. Mike tries to rectify the situation with Lucy, but it's too late for that. Lucy attempts to barber-bully herself and then disappears for a year. Mike feels horrible about the barber-bully and blames himself. Lucy eventually comes back, ready to seemingly accept that her Mike will never be. But deep down, she still longs for him. It is a part of her that will never fade. The time between correspondence with Sandy becomes longer, and Mike becomes more desperate. Eventually, he continuously calls her out of desperation. Sandy picks up finally, and admits the reason she had been so distant is that she found someone else she loved. Mike is devastated. He runs out into the night and meets Lucy by total accident. The two talk. Mike belts out all his problems and how he was a massive jerk. Lucy still loves him and decides to help. At the end of it, Mike admits something very personal about his scarf. Mike and Lucy kiss, and both are a little weirded out, but overall happy and hopeful. Mike goes home and sees Sandy is calling him. He answers the call because he still cares about her, and the two have a long talk, which was sadly cut from the frickin' chapter, because it would have made Mike more sympathetic. Sandy feels horrible and was worried Mike might do something to harm himself. She promises to rectify the situation by getting rid of the new boyfriend she was with and by becoming more active with him instead. Mike, understanding how Sandy feels because of how he acted towards Lucy, goes with it to make her happy. This devastates Lucy, who finally felt like she was marrying to Mike again. Mike knows he messed up big time, and in one last act of selflessness, he promises to stay away from Lucy so as to never hurt her again, because he really does care about her. But all is not well, as now Mike doesn't feel right, and things with Sandy are now a little soured. Lucy attempts to rebound on Paulo again,
but he rejects her.
Mike goes to the library and meets a friend, Daisy, and will presumably talk to her about his feelings. And now you all know why Mike and Lucy is the one true pairing.